If you dread looking at credit card statements, you're not alone. Debt can feel crippling, but our show sponsor, Upstart, can help you on your path to financial freedom. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Upstart knows you're more than just a credit score, and it's expanding access to affordable credit. Unlike lenders, Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate on your loan. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate up front for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. You can receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/Chael. Ryan Kavanaugh, does that name ring a bell? Not John Kavanaugh, not the head of Straight Blast Gin. Ryan Kavanaugh is the head, the figurehead, the leader of Triller. Now, I don't know Kavanaugh from the Man on the Moon. I wouldn't know him if he walked here and slapped me in the face right now. But he served himself extremely well. He just did an interview with Ariel. He was likable, and he was a real guy. And he said, look, we're just trying to find something sustainable here. We don't have it yet. And he even talked about Dana White specifically, and he said, I'm not a competitor. I will never compete with him. They are far and away, but we want to find something that we can duplicate and do again. All right, you know what? I got no problem with that. And I thought he said it in a very cool way. So Ariel asked him, Ariel's not going to not ask you the tough questions. You got to be ready when you go on Ariel. There's no friends from 9 to 5 if Ariel has a job to do. And Ariel asked him right out of the gate, to Ariel's credit, he said, what do you think of what you put on over the weekend, meaning Triller? And Ariel goes, I don't want to hear about the business side of it. I want to know what you think of the product now that it's done. Well, Kavanaugh's got some real navigating to do with that question. Because he can't lock himself into a corner and go, oh, we did everything wonderful and everything was perfect. Come on. Don't do that. Just answer the question honestly. Now that you have hindsight, the benefit of hindsight, I mean, you better be shooting 20/20 if it's in hindsight. So if you're looking back, which is what Ariel's asking him to do, there's no reason to try to cover something or look stupid, and he didn't. Kavanaugh didn't. He said, you know what? We saw some training footage, and talking about Evander, talking about some older boxers. I think he was specifically talking about another older boxer, but he brought Evander into this. And he said, we weren't crazy about what we saw. We went to the commission because we had signed bout agreements and said we're concerned. We've seen some stuff that's been brought to our attention through the benefit of training video that's leaked out. We don't love what we're seeing. What do we do? And the commission even said, Ryan, you're the first promoter ever to try to talk us out of a fight that we've approved, which sounds right. I tend to believe him when he says that. So he's talking about Evander again. Now, I got to tie this story in. I got to tie a little of this Kavanaugh interview in with a conversation I had with Vitor. Because I was speaking to Vitor yesterday about what is next. What are you going to do now? I want to see Vitor fight Mike Tyson. I also thought that's the direction they were going, only because Evander Holyfield was supposed to beat the hell out of Vitor, and then he was supposed to draw into Mike Tyson. This was not a secret. In case you didn't hear it, Tyson flew out to the fight so they could do the face-off, and at the end of the night, 50 Cent even tried to get that train back on the tracks. 50 Cent literally closed out the show by turning to Evander and saying, you don't look like you took much damage. You want to run it back real soon with Mike. Now, this is after he gets stopped in the first round, of which was reduced time to 2 minutes, standing TKO, and had thrown a punch and fell off balance out of the ring. I mean, it was a pretty bad question by 50 Cent, but 50 saw himself as in a position to do a job. I'm here. I'm going to finish this out. Everybody thought that Evander was going to beat Vitor, and that's really the point that I'm trying to make for you. Because when I asked Vitor about fighting Mike, Vitor said, first off, Mike won't fight me. I just destroyed the guy who destroyed him. But moreover, I don't want that kind of heat. I go, Vitor, what are you talking about? What heat? He goes, Chael, have you not seen what they've done to me? Well, Vitor, I'm one of them. I'm one of the guys that's done it to you, but remind me anyway. What have we said in the last week as it pertains to your fight? He goes, Chael, look at it from my perspective. I'm supposed to fight Oscar De La Hoya. I'm cutting weight to 185 pounds. On 8 days' notice, I not only am not at 185, I don't even go to the next weight class up, which is light heavyweight. I go to the open weight class, known as heavyweight, but unlimited, right? Whatever you weigh in at, you're getting in there, you're going to go box. And I'm a 2.5 to 1 underdog to a guy who looks like he's carved out of clay. Now, I agree. Evander Holyfield looked fantastic. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, you take what Evander weighed for this fight, you take a look at his body, you take the muscle, fat composition or lack thereof, he looked the same as he did in his prime. I mean, in all fairness, and don't tell me differently now because you have the benefit of this fight is over. He was a 2.5 to 1 favorite to beat Vitor. 2.5 to 1 favorite. I did not believe Vitor was going to win a single round until I saw that training footage. But Vitor did not know any of that when he had already signed on the line, when he already drove out and checked in, when he already did his paperwork through the commission. Vitor also thought, man, this is tough. Oscar was going to be a hard one. This just got a whole hell of a lot harder. And I only bring that to you because to pick on Vitor after the fact was a pretty low play. And Vitor's even saying this, I'm not getting in there with Mike. I don't think Mike wants to fight me, but I'm not giving him that attention. I'm not going back in there with a geriatric that the people can tease me afterwards when I'm working my ass off. This is real for me. I'm taking this serious. I'm in here twice a day, every day, and I'm not looking to be criticized for being successful. Man, I get that. Vitor's completely right. That's completely reasonable what he's saying. I'm only telling it to you fans because you just cost yourself Vitor versus Mike Tyson. You putting Vitor down for doing what Vitor was supposed to do when you set the lines, and I'm not scolding you directly, okay? It's a broad you, but you set the lines and you said he was a 2.5 to 1 dog. So he goes in there nervous. He goes in there thinking, man, I got to hit this guy as hard as I can, as many times as I can. Does that, referee steps in what he was supposed to do. It's not right to put that on Vitor. It's not. And now it might have cost everybody from seeing Tyson versus Vitor, which I think is a very different match. I think Tyson looked good in his return. I really do. I think that Roy Jones looked good in that return. I think that it was even a surprise that those two veterans went out and performed so well for as long as they performed, which was the distance of all 8 rounds. If you were to then juxtapose that against the better of the 3 fighters, at least in their youthful day, which was Evander Holyfield, it was a bit of a surprise. And maybe if you give a little bit more credit to what we saw Roy and Mike do, I think some of you would agree with that. Because we're not done, guys. Now we're on the cusp. Friend of mine. Friend would be a very loose term, but I followed this guy's career. I'm talking about Riddick Bowe. He did some training in Bend, Oregon. I live in Portland, about 2 hours away when he's fighting for world championships. Riddick Bowe finished his career like 47-1. And that only one was to Evander, which, by the way, they fought twice and split. I mean, you got to be pretty damn good to ever beat Evander Holyfield. You got to be pretty damn good to even get on the docket with a prime Evander Holyfield, let alone to do it twice and let alone get your hand raised once. So Riddick Bowe, very good. And then he made a comment to me on social media a couple of years ago, and we had a back and forth. So I'm throwing friend out a little bit loosely. I've never met him. I had one conversation with Riddick Bowe, but I follow his career, and those are the reasons why. He was nice to me on Twitter, and he trained up the road from where I grew up. All right. But he's now coming back to fight that knucklehead Lamar Odom. And they just put training footage out of Riddick Bowe. Guys, it was stunning. And you know I don't pick on a guy. You know I would always encourage somebody to get in shape, to do what they want to do, to have focus, to be in the gym. These are positive things, but it was stunning to see Riddick Bowe shadow boxing. I couldn't imagine if it was a different apparatus. If it was a speed bag, if it was a double in bag, if it was a heavy bag, if it was focus mess, I couldn't even imagine. Riddick Bowe, when he was shadow boxing, could not and did not extend his arm. The first thing you will learn when you're punching is it's called turning it over. On day one, though, when I say first, the first thing you will learn is to turn this over so your thumb goes down, but it locks your arm out. He couldn't do it even in shadow boxing. He couldn't move beyond this. He couldn't hit a target no matter what it was. It could be a fly. It could be a heavy bag. It could be a focus mitt. It could not be an opponent standing across from you. These arms don't hit anything. It was shocking to see. The footwork was barely there. The exhaustion and the sweat that he had in doing this very slow work, it was shocking. I'm not looking to put Riddick Bowe down. What I'm looking to do is to maybe build up what Mike and Roy did in hindsight. What Mike and Roy went and did in hindsight, and comparing to other greats, Evander and Riddick specifically, man, those guys put on a hell of a contest, didn't they? And then you look at Vitor, well, Vitor, what are you going to do? I want to see him fight Mike. And if it's good for Evander, then I feel like Vitor just took his spot. What am I missing? Well, what I'm missing was the obvious, which is, I just forgot. I forgot the De La Hoya fight's still there. I forgot all about Oscar. When Oscar pulled whatever he pulled to get out of that fight, I figured that was done. Oscar saw something different. Well, the whole world saw Vitor destroying one of the greats ever. Oscar apparently saw somebody that he wouldn't mind competing with, which does make it a little bit more interesting for me. Because of all the boxing matches, all the boxing versus MMA and crossover and celebrities and this champion versus this champ, that's the one that surprised me. Because De La Hoya's taken a big risk there. He was taking a big risk from Jump Street, but now being armed with how dangerous Vitor is and how quick Vitor still is, and Vitor showed a lot of things in that Evander fight. He showed a good uppercut multiple times. He dug to the body with both hands. That's hard to do. You might see a guy do that on a heavy bag. To actually do that on an opponent, to go to both sides, to dig to the kidney, to dig to the liver, then come back and finish with a hook, it's hard, and Vitor showed these skills. Those were the very skills that he showed, hard enough with enough power that the referee stepped in and said, we're going home. So for De La Hoya to see that and say, I'm on board, I don't know. I don't find that I'm an overly nice guy to De La Hoya. Maybe I'm in a good mood today. But I do feel like I owe De La Hoya some level of respect.